Good evening, everybody. Rob here at WesternPacificWeather.com. It is currently about 19:20 Queensland time here. I always like to put the time on here. I'm going to put a couple more updates out tonight here as well. And what you are looking at here right now is kind of down the barrel of this gun. Tropical Cyclone Yasi here, moving off to the west, southwest, basically almost due west now at about 19 knots. Current wind sustained out of it are 105 knots. That is on a 10-minute wind scale, so that is an amazingly high wind speed for an overall 10-minute wind scale out here. Most agencies usually warn on a 1 or a 2-minute wind scale, but actually 105 knots at a 10-minute. That's sustained wind over a 10-minute course. So very destructive winds inside this inner eye wall right in here. You actually can see this eye wall even on this visible imagery here with the highest cloud tops throughout here. Also have the eye in here about 50 kilometers wide from end to end, so plenty of time after that first eye wall passes if you do end up in the eye for the next side of the eye to come through. I say plenty of time for people to come out and get stuck outside. If you do get caught up in this eye, please remain indoors. I can't stress that enough. By the time the winds start coming from one direction and then all these objects are loose, they start swishing from the other direction. It just makes that situation that much worse. But current wind gust out of this is up to about 155 knots. That's also a very incredible wind speed. That is above super typhoon strength if you're up in the northern hemisphere. A Category 5 cyclone announced by the Bureau of Meteorology, and will likely be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, cyclone to make landfall along the Queensland coast or anywhere in Australia for that matter, in recorded history at least. And here showing the most recent microwave imagery from one of these MT-SATs here. This one's only about 3 hours old right now, but I really like using this because you can see the detail in these rain bands. A really good pass from this polar orbiter this time here. And outer rain bands extending well inland. These are producing some heavy rain showers well over Queensland here. Reports of some really high knots up here at Richmond. Actually seeing reports of winds up above about 30 to 40 knots. That's even tropical storm forest out in this region out here in these outer rain bands. And here, just even as far south as Brisbane, seeing some high winds associated with these outer rain bands as well. Heavy rain in those rain bands. But the key thing I want to note with this microwave imagery is the eye wall and this overall high amount of precipitation, high amount of winds, all concentrated in the core. If you are located anywhere along this coast in here, and that even counts Cairns all the way down to Townsville, even as far south as Mackay, all throughout this region in here, and definitely Innisfail, you're going to be seeing a very strong storm at landfall when the storm does make landfall. I know I see reports out of Cairns right now only seeing about and I only say only 65-kilometer wind out of there. Townsville seeing some winds actually a little bit less out of that region of approximately about 30 to 40 kilometers at this time. That wind's going to intensify very rapidly. From the Bureau, seeing a max at Cairns of 260, max at Townsville of 190, in Mackay, even 120 there. Innisfail, going to be even seeing higher than all of those. So it's a very intense situation right now, especially in this inner core inside this eye wall, which is pretty obvious on this microwave imagery. And here showing the most recent radar out of Cairns here. Very large rain bands coming off to the west here, and these rain bands having some very heavy precipitation. I'm seeing visibility be reduced along these observations here along the coast all the way down to less than a mile at many times here as these rain bands continue to come ashore. And that's really bad as far as flooding, rainfall, that reduced visibility, but also the tornado threat in these rain bands still continues to be high. I've noted that in the last several updates. Want to note it again here. With landfalling cyclones, you often have these outer rain bands producing the tornadoes, and usually gradually weak, but and I say weak as in an EF1 that still has sustained winds within those of around about 80 to 100 knots. But the thing I do want to note is they're usually rain shrouded and fast moving, so they're very hard to spot and almost impossible to spot on radar here. But this is the most recent radar, and I'm going to continue to watch this throughout the night here as this storm continues to come ashore. And here showing you the Bureau's surface analysis for all of Australia, and I'm showing this at first before I actually pull up the Bureau's forecast analysis for Yasi, because I want to show where this is going to go in the long run. Eventually it's going to end up wrapping around this 1022 hectopascal high pressure out here all the way down near New Zealand that's actually playing a big role in the whole reason why it ended up going towards the location where it is now. Well, in the long run, it's going to kind of swing out here towards the south, towards the remnants of Anthony, which continue to track towards the south all the way down here, even ending off towards Tasmania down in this region here. So that's really where the storm's going to go in the long run. But the big thing I want to know with that is precipitation farther inland. This continues to cause a flood threat in the long run. I really do want to acknowledge that even though if you don't live near the coast, this storm's going to continue to cause problems farther inland here. And here showing the Bureau of Meteorology's forecast track on this system. I really like what they did with this as putting the very destructive winds in a circle here, destructive and so on and so forth moving out. It really kind of shows you if you are in the path of one of these very destructive areas. Not looking too of a good situation right now. Another thing I want to know is on this warning here that the wind field out of this system is absolutely immense. For example, 34 kilometer or 34 knot winds, excuse me, that's the equivalent of a tropical storm in anywhere else in the world here, and also just where these cyclones start getting warned on, extends 190 kilometers off towards the northeast, 140 towards the northwest, 170 to the southwest, and 240 kilometers all the way out here towards the southeast. So southern periphery, definitely the stronger portion, that left front quadrant as noted, and here is where you're going to be seeing that massive amount of storm surge. So all the way from Innisfail here down to Townsville, you're going to see a large storm surge near the coast. That's basically a given at this point. As the size of the storm, that wind fetch area, as noted in the last several updates. Sorry, Bureau guys, I'm going to be drawing on your warning here, but those last several updates noted this overall wind fetch area with all the entire mass of this storm blowing the air across and blowing all these wind waves onshore here. On top of that, this system is forecasted to get down well below 940 hectopascals. That means that the overall pressure on the water of this system is going to raise the sea level itself. Just the pressure of the air is going to raise the sea level. That combined with the winds, and also at 2100 tonight, at least in Cairns here and as far south as Townsville, between 2100 and 2200, you're going to be seeing those high tides, and that's another big factor that's going to play into this. By 0200, the tides should start to go down again. Actually going to be seeing low tide by then, but that is a really big factor because of that landfall, which is still expected to be around 2100, where these eye walls going to be making landfall. That is going to be, then all this combined is going to create a massive storm surge, is really what I'm trying to say there. And then another thing I want to note is that these gale warnings have been put out, and even these flood watches very farther inland here, all the way out to Mount Isa, and all these winds are going to continue to track out there, but as already noted, the rainfall amount with already saturated grounds out here is going to create a very high flood potential after landfall. I mean, many of these areas here are already seeing the ground fully saturated right now, so that means when the rain hits the ground, it's not going to have anywhere to go. It's just going to go directly into the rivers. Those rivers are going to go into the watersheds, and especially a lot of these areas near the coast could see a second wave of flash flooding after the immediate landfall of this system. So that's another thing I do want to bring up. But if you live anywhere in these entire area right through here, and I'm kind of pointing this out, but if you are anywhere in this area and you are watching this video right now, good on you that you still have electricity, but please stay safe and please stay indoors because it is going to be a rough night tonight. And here showing you this IR shot / visible shot, kind of going through and just showing the overall size of this system and how it continues to be very, very large just prior to landfall here. I mean, for example, 64 knots of winds extend 70 kilometers out from the core, and that's just amazing. Usually when you see a cyclone, the cyclone force winds actually extend out a few kilometers, few nautical miles from the core, but that's actually 40 nautical miles in each direction, 70 kilometers from the core of this system. So even though you are not right on the eye, you're still, even 70 kilometers in one direction, you still will be seeing those cyclone force winds. Maybe not the 150 knots that with the gust that the max is going to be at, but there's still those cyclones and very destructive winds extend very far from here. So, and also this system does continue to intensify even just prior to landfall, especially right near the core of this system. Still have the high sea surface temperatures, very shallow water near the coast there due to the reef as well. All that churning up of the waters is really not going to affect the overall sea surface temperature, so you're still seeing seas above 90 degrees there. Still continues to be low vertical wind shear, and the system continues to be fed in by this overall pot of moisture out there. So I will have another update though in the next several hours. Actually, I'm going to try to put out another one tonight here, and possibly even another one after that. Godspeed to everybody out there. I hope everybody got out of the evacuation area. This isn't my first super typhoon slash one of the strongest storms to hit country yet this year. Actually, Typhoon Megi hit the Philippines back in November, and it was very, very strong, and actually one of the strongest ever recorded storms that ever hit that country. And good news is the death toll was actually remarkably low, because Pagasa put out many warnings up there and basically told the people to get away from the coast and was very well informed. Bureau of Meteorology and the Australian government has done the same exact thing, put out those mandatory evacuations and told everybody to get out of harm's way. So let's really hope that everybody has got out of harm's way at this point, and that the death toll will remain low, if none, hopefully. So that should be coming through to us soon. And continue to watch these news agencies as they continue to put out reports here. So I hope everybody stays safe here, and I'll have another update soon. Bye.